This podcast is brought to you by Key for Her. Whether you're feeling the effects of menopause or your menstrual cycle, discover what's key for you in less than 5 minutes. With tailored supplement recommendations, information and insights on keyforher.com.
Hi, I'm Renée.
And I'm Donna. Welcome to the Key for Her podcast.
In this series, we aim to educate and open up honest conversations with both medical professionals and real-life women.
We want to shine a light on those topics that sometimes go unspoken about and help empower women to know what is key for their health and well-being. Welcome to the Key podcast. In this episode, we'll be talking to Pilates guru Rachel Hollywood. Rachel is a Pilates teacher based in Dublin with an interest in Pilates for perimenopause and menopause. She has undertaken specific training on Pilates for menopause, pelvic floor health, and Pilates for osteoporosis to enable her to provide support and knowledge for her clients. You're very welcome to the
Welcome,
podcast.
Rachel.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. So we're going to talk all things Pilates today, with a focus on Pilates for perimenopause and menopause. So tell us all about yourself and how you got started.
Okay, so I've been interested in Pilates for more than 20 years, and it's something that has always consistently been in my life that I practiced regularly or sporadically, came and went. But after I had my first child, I was doing Pilates right up until the day before I gave birth.
Wow, fair play.
Honest dedication.
I was stuck on the couch. I needed help to get up.
Well, I don't know whether that was craziness or, you know, that sort of nest-in crazy thing that goes on just before you have a baby, but I really enjoyed it and felt great in my body. After I had my son, I went back to my first Pilates class and my instructor said to me, wow, look at your spine. Look at the difference in it since you've had the baby. So I think the weight had kind of pulled my spine out of alignment and I had a really deep curve in my lower back, much more so than I ever had before. I mean, we all have these kind of little curves, so that's our natural spine, but it was quite, you know, quite pronounced. So I did some individual sessions with her and amazing transformation, like huge difference in my body.
So you have lower back pain after?
A little bit, but I kind of put that down anyway to carrying a baby around and doing, you know, just sitting in an awkward position feeding and stuff.
It has to put things out though.
Oh, look, pre and postnatal is another area that I really enjoy teaching.
Might get you back in for that for another day.
And there's all sorts of changes that happen in the body then. So, and you know, we can work to strengthen it. But anyway, coming back to that, I suppose that really sort of sparked something in me then to say, wow, I mean, this is kind of life-changing. But, you know, I had a career. I've spent 20 years working in banking in the UK and here. And just the timing was never right.
Yeah.
And then I suppose a couple of years ago, things just kind of fell into place. Decided to leave banking and go into teaching Pilates. So obviously started right at the very beginning. It was a lot more intense in the training than I suppose I'd ever really expected. But as soon as I started, it kind of lit a fire in me and
something
couldn't
just clicked.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was devouring as much information as I could. I couldn't, like my husband would say to me, why? Like your head's always in a book, you know? And I couldn't get enough of it. So I absolutely loved it. And then, I just started teaching and really enjoyed it. Love working with clients.
How amazing to be able to turn your passion into your
absolutely,
career as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, it's just so different getting up in the morning to go to work. But
a lot less stressful, I'd say.
Well, it is and it isn't, I suppose, because there's still a lot of work involved because I suppose I'm, you know, when I'm working with a new client, if I'm doing a one-to-one, for example, and say it's a bit of work, they have medical conditions or they might have injuries or whatever. You know, there's a lot of research then that still has to go into that to make sure that, I'm moving them safely and efficiently. And but anyway, in terms of the perimenopause and menopause, I'm 48. I'm in that stage
she
myself.
She doesn't look it, by the way.
No.
You're watching
my God.
the video.
I'm going to start Pilates tomorrow.
Thanks. And just started, I suppose, to notice a few things in my own body. And also I have a lot of friends who are around the same age or a little bit older and just listening to them talking. And just sort of followed a path of wanting to learn more about that. So undertook some additional training. And then it's amazing. I started putting dots together that hadn't really meant anything before. They were just these things that occurred, and then
random ailments
the
years, that start adding up, and then you look back and you go, you get your aha.
Absolutely.
Makes sense then.
My eyes just don't stop watering, and I didn't know that was a symptom until somebody told me on one of the training courses I was on. I was like, oh my God, that's me.
Yeah.
So it's just all these little things, and then I see the same with clients. I teach a lot of ladies around the same age as me and older, and really keen, I suppose, to make sure that they can stay healthy as they age through menopause, but also post-menopause. We lose 10% of our bone health in the first few years after menopause. Which is really scary because people kind of think, oh, I don't need to worry about my bone health because I'm too young for that. But after the age of 35, we lose more bone than we make. So we have to do something proactive. Yeah. That involves some kind of, it's not just, eating well, but it involves some kind of training element, whether, that's strength training and resistance training.
Yeah, we keep hearing this time and time again.
Absolutely.
Preventing by doing strength exercises wherever you can.
And, and I totally get it. I mean, I suppose I've always had an interest in fitness myself, but I know lots of people don't. And I certainly know at a certain stage of your life, there's a number of barriers to exercise. You might feel lack of confidence. You might feel you've put on a bit of weight. And, I've had people say to me, I can't come to a class until I've lost some weight. And it's like, you need to park that. We need to...
And those machines can be a bit daunting as well.
They do look a little bit scary, like a torture bed or something, but they are amazing.
Yeah.
So I suppose I really just want to help as many women as I can to feel good about their bodies and to feel strong in them. It's not about this, air quotes, bikini body. Park that aside, stop thinking like that. It's about your health. It's about being strong. It's about going into older age, feeling that, you're not starting to stoop forward and, get a hump on the back and, struggling for breath. You're shuffling along because you've lost all the mobility in your ankles. All of these things we can really help with Pilates. So I suppose that's where my passion came from, really.
It's amazing. And then...
And it's gentle, though, as well.
It's low impact,
but it's challenging, I think, at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because when you're younger, you're trying to do all these crazy, you're up in the morning doing all these cardio HIIT classes, and it's very intense. So
it's quite different. It's low impact. So you are not working up that same kind of sweat you would be doing in a cardio class. But that's not to say it's easy, because
I can testify.
I've done a few Pilates classes, and those hundreds are not easy.
But you're working big muscles and small muscles, and I suppose the key is that you're targeting muscles that you might not target on a daily basis, whether you're exercising or not. We have the bigger muscles that we all know of. We've got the hamstrings, the quads, the biceps, but we're really looking to target the smaller muscles in the body as well. You're stabilizing muscles in your core. I really like to try and use the analogy of, imagine like an apple and the core going through the center of the apple. It's the same with our body. We need to be strong in the center for everything coming out of it.
It's a really good way to think of it.
Efficiently. So the stronger we are in our core, the more efficient the body works. So, for example, if you are, say lifting something, for example, stronger core means that your body is kind of stabilized more when it's lifting something. So it's asking less of other parts of your body. So, for example, it's asking less of your spine. So all those niggles that, the majority of back pain is what they term unspecific back pain. Like, you just have it. There's no initial trauma or anything. And, that can be as debilitating as a back pain that comes from a trauma. But there are things that we can do, I suppose, to minimize the wear and tear on our body. And certainly in classes, I like to try and educate my clients as well to say, when you're lifting something, this is how you do it, or, activate your deeper core muscle before you go to lift something. So, it kind of locks your core in and it prepares you for that kind of lifting. But there's other elements as well to build in. And I mentioned osteoporosis, but pelvic floor health is a really key thing at this age.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge barrier for women wanting to exercise. 1 in 3 women have bladder leakage issues.
I think you don't have to, a lot of people don't realise, you don't wait until you're like in menopause or beyond to do something about it. A lot of women are experiencing it just after they have a baby.
Absolutely.
Anyway, whether they've given birth vaginally or they've had a C-section.
Yeah.
Because I thought I wouldn't have any sort of issues with my bladder after having my 2 kids because I had them both as sections.
Yeah.
But it was just because the pressure of the birth, like, you know, being pregnant for so long.
Absolutely.
That it's just...
And there's
You'd sneeze and go...
And the thing is, it's been normalised now that that's okay, that to expect a bit of leaking, whether you've had children or not had children, because the pelvic floor can weaken through other things as well, you know, medication, illnesses, a lot of downward pressure. So if you suffer a lot with constipation, for example, all of those things can contribute to a weakening of the pelvic floor. We also lose some of the connective tissue and the strength in the pelvic floor as we age as well. But the normalization of the leakage is really frustrating because I think that stops women then talking about it or going to seek any help with it.
Yeah, and find a solution.
Yeah.
Instead of just putting up with it and thinking they have to wear a pad for the rest of their life. They don't actually if they go.
Absolutely
and
not.
It's not like they have to go and always take tablets or anything. It's just literally some exercises that they can actually do. I know sometimes there's some internal devices that they can use as well, but there's definitely help. You don't have to put up with it.
I mean, there are studies that have been done that show between 12 and 16 weeks of good quality pelvic floor exercises. And I suppose that's the key, is to make sure that you see somebody who can show you what a good pelvic floor exercise is. It's not just hold and squeeze everything up as tight as possible. It's not, I mean, I think that's the way that it kind of used to be taught, but you know, the understanding has improved.
But you're
a
doing
lot
them right
since
now,
then.
aren't you?
You wouldn't know if I was.
what could we do simply every day to make strives towards having better pelvic floor strength? You know?
Tips.
Well, I mean, a simple exercise is, imagine your pelvic floor like an escalator. So you're traveling up an escalator.
Okay, I'm imagining that.
We have 3 passages in our pelvic floor, back, middle and front.
Yeah.
We need to be able to engage all of them. So that's why I quite like the escalator analogy. So you imagine you're traveling up. The first thing you need to do is engage the pelvic floor. And the best way to do that is by thinking of holding in wind, drawing up from your back passage. We have a lot of pelvic floor muscle there. Okay. So you hold in wind, so you feel that connection, and then imagine you're traveling up your escalator. So back passage, traveling up the escalator, middle passage, traveling up the escalator to the front passage, which is at the neck of the bladder. You're holding everything in, you're breathing normally, you're trying not to squeeze your bum or wrinkle your eyebrows or shrug your shoulders. Breathe normally, and then just release it. And then when it's important as well that the release happens, because holding on to the pelvic floor just means it won't engage as efficiently the next time. Okay. So a big cleansing breath once you are done, and then go again. Engage on the exhale, hold it for a few seconds,
Ding,
release.
Going up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a different analogy as well, but yeah. But, you know, a couple of times a day, 3 times a day, maybe 5 or 6 times.
Okay.
Consistently. That's the key.
How many times do you do it?
So about 3 to 5 times a day.
Okay.
And find a trigger. Like I'd say to my clients sometimes, if they drive a lot, every time you come to a red traffic light.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay.
Or every time, if you're walking, every time you go to use the crossing, something that reminds you. And,
to do it.
Know, nobody knows you're doing it. Hopefully, because you're not.
I just did it there. Could you tell?
Yeah.
All this beep beep behind you. Like, hurry up! You're like, sorry, I was doing the pelvic exercise.
Absolutely, and like with any other exercise, you're not going to get it straight off if you've never done them before. You know, you have to wake up all of those kind of motor skills in that area. So it can take a little bit of time. But I would definitely say if you're suffering with any kind of bladder leakage or bowel leakage, because I think 1 in 7 women suffer with bowel leakage as well. And it takes on average a woman 7 years to talk to a doctor about it.
Oh,
so
that's sad.
Yeah.
Really.
And I'm sure there are plenty of women out there who have had this for a very, very long time and have just thought, well, this is me and I just need to get on with it. There are things that can be done. depending on, I suppose, the severity, it mightn't all be fixed with, consistent pelvic floor exercises.
Yeah.
There may need to be other interventions, but go and talk to your doctor or a women's health physio. I mean, amazing.
Yes.
I mean, I certainly, when I had my children, I didn't know there was such thing as a women's health physio. But I talk to clients about it now, and some who, when I'm teaching prenatal, and some of them would say to me, "Oh, I've already booked my postnatal appointment with them," and it's like, that's amazing.
Good.
That's so good. The awareness is there now.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
So,
So when customers or clients come to you, what would they be coming to you for? What are their main concerns? And
I suppose a lot of people initially come because they like the idea that it's low impact, because a lot of the clients are, like I say, kind of my age or a bit older.
Yeah.
They don't want to get into any cardio type jumping around exercises. People who would say that they've noticed changes in their posture, they feel tight, they're not as flexible as they were before. And Pilates can really help with all of that. I mean, it really helps to, regain the posture if you've now suddenly become a lot of sort of what we call kyphotic, where you have the rounding in your upper back and the shoulders are forward.
Yeah.
We really want to open out the chest, and there's a lot of breath work done as well, because breath is super important. The diaphragm is directly connected to the pelvic floor as well, so they need to work in harmony, really work to strengthen the core. The other things, balance and mobility are really key.
Balance can be thrown off actually in menopause.
Absolutely,
people tend to fall over more, and then they end up breaking bones. So it's kind of like this catch-22.
Absolutely.
Kind of
and we lose our balance starts to deteriorate. I think it's from, off the top of my head, maybe again around about the age of 35 to 45, I think we start to lose
very young,
natural
isn't it?
balance. It is, yeah. But I suppose because the body is stronger, if we trip over a paving stone or whatever, we're more likely to be able to right ourselves. But I suppose as we get older and we lose the strength in the ankles and other ligaments and stuff, that's where those type of little stumbles can then turn into falls. And I suppose a lot of women just as well, low back pain is a big one, but
I think a lot of them don't realize the low back pain is because their core isn't strong enough. They just think the whole problem is in their back, but if they actually,
it's not, it's never as simple as just, it's my back. Everything in the body is so interconnected. So I kind of again,
I feel like when my lower back was sore, it was the problem was it was wrapping around my hip, and it was actually my quad that was tight, and it was pulling so much that it actually was reverting to my lower back. So my problem was my leg.
That's it. It's like getting a snag in your jumper. You might have the pull up at the shoulder, but the wrinkle might be down at the bottom part or something. And it's exactly the same in the body. So that's why it's really good, I suppose, if you have any specific injuries or medical conditions, that if you are going to start any exercise regime, but with Pilates as well, we do a lot of one-to-one work, that you do take some time to see somebody one-to-one, because there may be certain modifications you might need in the the interim period or whatever. But
and these classes, they're not scary.
Absolutely
I did
not.
a good few Pilates classes a few years ago, and I loved them, and I really got into it. And there's all sorts of different types of people in it. You don't have to worry that you're not looking like Gwyneth Paltrow.
Absolutely.
At them. It's not like that. It's not.
No way.
It's a different kind of Hollywood.
I can see the benefit of a one-to-one though as well, especially if you're having pelvic floor issues and you can have a chat.
Absolutely.
And then maybe progress into the class.
And certainly if it's reformer Pilates you're interested in, for example, because the machines do look a bit scary, as you mentioned
before.
Tell us
about those.
They're brilliant. I mean, you're on a moving carriage, so you really have to work to stabilize the body, works on the stability. There are springs which are have different resistance.
Okay.
So you can up the intensity or take down the intensity. Right. And, they bring a whole new challenge to the body. So, for example, you can do a type of in inverted commas squat exercise, but because you're lying on the bed, you're still using the same strength through your legs as you would if it was body weight, but your body's a lot more supported. So if you're somebody who said, I can't do a squat, well, funnily, you might actually find yourself doing them without even realizing you're doing them. And really, really good. The other form of Pilates as well, I mean, we have other equipment in the studios too, but outside of the studio, you can roll out your mat. There's online options, but again, I would say if you have any medical conditions, maybe do a one-to-one first before you just go into an online. Or, your local halls, your community centres and stuff would do various classes, I would say, as well. So mat Pilates tends to be a little bit more accessible. Reformer Pilates, you do have to go to a studio. One isn't better than the other. Mat, you're using your own body weight. Can still
That's what I have done.
Yeah.
That's why I was a bit scared of the machines when I saw them, because I had never
love the machines.
tried that.
I went and did the machines. I've never done the one on the mat.
Must try that now.
Yeah. So, brilliant. I mean, people love what they love. And like I say, one isn't better than the other. Combination, whether you just do one or the other, it doesn't matter. I mean, very similar exercises. You'll see some crossover from the mat to the reformers. Bridges, for example, you can do on the reformer. The difference is you'll have your foot up on a bar, so you'll get higher up into the bridge. The carriage will be unstable, so you have to engage a little harder to stop it moving. Okay. So, there's all those different elements, but don't be afraid, if you've never done it before, to think that I couldn't get on one of those machines. Absolutely not. Every studio will have a level that suits. Yes. They will have a foundation level for somebody who has never been before, and those classes are specifically suited. The way that I would teach my classes as well is, I would always make sure that, the client has their right cues, they understand which parts of the body that they will be using, how they should be feeling it, or how, and if they're not, then, definitely there's a lot of hands-on, okay, let's try it this way if this is not working for you. And so it isn't a case of you just turning up, you go to a class, you move through it for 45 minutes to an hour and then you leave and there's no interaction. No, there's definitely assistance and everything as you go through, especially with the equipment.
Bring a friend.
Bring a friend, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'd say is, don't worry that you're thinking that Gwyneth Paltrow might be on the machine next to you or the mat next to you. Nobody is looking at anybody.
No,
you're so working so hard to stabilize your body, to work through the exercise. That you're not worried about what's going on anywhere else. And everybody's body is different. So what an exercise looks like in my body will look different in yours, will look different in yours, because just the way we're made, our bones, the length, our mechanics, all different. So it doesn't mean that, you're better than me or I'm better than you. It just means that we move differently. And it's important to make sure with any exercise class that it feels good in your body, that you're not just, and I've done it before. I'm sure we all have gone to a class, gone through something and thought, oh my goodness, this actually feels really uncomfortable, but I'll keep going because they told me to keep going. And before you know it, you've pulled something and you never go back again. So we definitely make sure that that's not the thought process that our clients would have when we kind of see them. Listen to your own body. Yeah.
So if I'm, say, perimenopausal and I came to you, what would you be focusing on, and for my specific life stage, if that's where I was at, versus if I was in my 20s?
Or what do they tend to come to you with? What's the main elements?
So there's definitely a lot of things that we see around perimenopause and menopause. The loss of estrogen impacts the connective tissues and the ligaments and the joints. The body doesn't heal as well, and you might have recurring injuries. So if you pulled your hamstring, you might think it's fixed, and then you pull it again quite quickly afterwards because the body just takes longer to heal. But things like frozen shoulder, real common one that we see at this stage of life.
What does frozen shoulder feel like for someone that maybe hasn't?
Very, very painful, and comes out of nowhere, can last an unspecified period of time, 6 months to a year.
So is it at the top, at the back?
It's at the top. You're restricted in your movement.
Okay. And is that because the muscle has all of a sudden gone really tight, or is it a joint thing?
There's a bit of an unknown about frozen shoulder, and they talk a lot about it being an emotional ailment.
Wow. Okay.
Which kind of, at this stage of life would kind of tie in a lot with that as well. Mm-hmm. So with a lot of people who have frozen shoulder, it has come out of nowhere. Okay. There has been no fall or strain or anything. It's just come on. The same with tennis elbow. That's another common one as well. And you don't have to play tennis to have tennis elbow.
Yeah. And the likes of the wrist
tendinopathies, absolutely. Achilles is a big one as well, in your Achilles. Plantar fasciitis, I managed to say that probably, is a really big one as well in your feet. And just general other things around the feet. And it's funny, in somatics, I don't know a huge amount of somatics, but I think the feet are connected to the pelvic floor. So it's just incredible. Balance issues, pelvic floor, which we mentioned. Somebody who is already hypermobile, which means that they have a lot of movement through their joints, can actually get worse as well. So you might find even more unstable in your joints. So say you were doing a plank or something and you were hypermobile already, you already have to kind of, I suppose, rein it in on your elbows a little bit, but it could get worse as well.
I just find like as I get older, my knees just are
general joint pain,
sore.
I feel like they want to pop out.
So there was a study in 2018 that showed at the time of menopause, musculoskeletal pain is reported by more than half of the women in the study.
What? That's a lot.
The presentation of joint pain is the greatest between 45 and 55 years of age.
Okay.
So just general joint pain.
Of menopause.
Bang
really,
in the middle of it. Other things that I kind of see a lot of, carpal tunnel. So you mentioned about there is carpal tunnel. Headaches and migraines. Hip pain. And a really big one, which is kind of presents as hip pain because it's on the side. Gluteal tendinopathy. It's a degenerative condition of the glute med at the side of the glute, and that can be super painful. That can keep you awake at night.
Does it feel like sciatica down?
Kind of like that on the side of your hip going into the side of the glute. And again, there have been studies on this, and there are certain exercises that you can do to help what you call an isometric exercise, where it means you're actually not lengthening the muscle, but you are working and engaging the muscle. And there is some anti-inflammatory sort of properties of that style of exercise. So that can kind of help. Analgesic, I think, as well, can kind of help it a little bit with those type of exercises. So it's funny, and sometimes the women come in and they might say, oh, I've got this and I've got that, and I might be halfway through a session with them, and all of a sudden my own light bulb goes off and says, oh, okay, that's gluteal tendinopathy or whatever, because they might have just said, oh, I have a pain in my hip. And sometimes you think, oh, well, your hip is up here, but it's actually when they show you, they draw like this little C shape on the side of the hip, and it's like, okay, I think that's more the glutes. And so it's those type of things. IBS is a big one. Fibromyalgia. And my own mum suffers with fibromyalgia, so I have quite an interest in that as well. And those kind of autoimmune conditions can get worse at this stage as well. And again, when you have an autoimmune condition and you're in some level of pain, the majority of time, the last thing you're going to want to do is exercise. But it is the best thing that you can do.
Because as estrogen declines, because it has this kind of anti-inflammatory effect for all those years before it starts declining, and we don't even realize. And that's how kind of allergies and all these kind of like these kind of things start happening to people, and they're like, where did this come from?
The inflammation becomes such an issue.
I think for a lot of people as well, when they say they're putting on weight, I think for a lot of them, it's not actually fat. They're actually just more inflamed, if you know what I mean. They're swollen, if that makes sense. Like things are just like hyper inflamed. But it's like women are being hit by a
like everything, all directions.
We don't get it. At one time, they're just, give us a break.
And you can totally then understand why you wouldn't have the will to want to get up and physically exert yourself when you're already exhausted doing just living. And there's a lot going on at this stage of life. I mean, my kids are teenagers, so I'm either driving them here, there, or everywhere, or I'm out doing the food shop, or I'm doing this, and I'm working, and then my husband's working. It's like, it's finding the time. So
exactly, it's about dedicating time to yourself. It's not what it's about, because you can say I'm busy, but you can actually find the time.
But you would find the time if something all of a sudden big, major happened, and then everything would have to come to a screaming halt.
Absolutely.
This podcast is brought to you by our very own brand, Key for Her. Whether you're feeling the effects of menopause or your menstrual cycle, discover what's key for you in less than 5 minutes with tailored supplement recommendations, information and insights on keyforher.com.
Please have 20% off on us by using the promo code KEYPODCAST in all capitals. Looking at those symptoms, like a lot of it's obviously to do with inflammation, and a lot of it is to do with just general aging as well. But then things like seems to be a lot of joint stuff. So can you talk to us a bit about how collagen plays that role in the collagen decline around that age, like from your mid-20s? And then by the time you hit perimenopause, it's nearly 50%. So I'd just like to talk a little bit about how the decline in collagen can affect the joints.
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes joint pain is just as simple as my elbow feels a bit achy. Other times it can be, you know, a lot more severe than that. It can really affect then, you know, your walking because of your ankles or your knees, or again, it's just that general, you know, whatever you do, it feels uncomfortable in the body. But it's really important then, I suppose, that because of that decline in collagen, that we make sure that we're still doing something to strengthen those joints.
Yes.
And sometimes the worst thing we can do is to do nothing, because you just make that worse. You need to
use it or lose it.
Yeah, and you need to have the blood flowing. You need to have, you know, the fluid around the joints, you know, and all of that kind of stuff. You know, you want them to stay lubricated, and they only do that with, you know, movement. And it doesn't have to be jumping up and down. You know, it can just be something as gentle as coming up onto your toes, holding on to something if your balance isn't great, and then just starting slow. Like wherever you start, if you go to somebody who, you know, is knows what they're teaching, and, you know, is confident in teaching for certain things, they will meet you where you're at. They're not going to say to you, okay, well, we're doing X, Y, and Z, even if you're nowhere near that level. They will meet you at whatever level you are. And I definitely have clients where coming up onto the toes and, you know, doing some stuff on the floor and maybe using a resistance band is as strenuous as it gets. But for their body, that is really hard work.
So it's about trying to fit something into your day that's going to start you on this new path, and taking small steps towards making yourself healthier. So whether it is getting one-to-one Pilates coach, getting involved in a class, maybe taking your collagen supplement every day to help with that.
Absolutely.
Tastes
great, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we have a key collagen supplement. We'll talk about it a bit more, but taking a key collagen supplement, or taking collagen supplement, looking at your foods, maybe a more anti-inflammatory type of view on the way that you consume foods. Anything else?
And like more hydration as well. I think people are relying on coffee so much now just to get themselves through the day, and they're forgetting that it really is a diuretic. And, you know, they end up dehydrated or might have headaches, and obviously you're not going to feel as great as you could possibly if you're not hydrated enough. You know?
Absolutely. And I would say, you know, consistency is key. So find
something. That's what we say all the time. Yes.
Find something you enjoy.
Yes.
So, I mean,
I think so.
For me, it's Pilates, but I do other things as well, because, you know, I need to switch off. You mentioned something earlier, actually, just to come back on, that when you do something like Pilates, it's kind of, in a way, mindful movement, because you really are tuning into your body. And sometimes we're so busy, we just don't listen to what our body is telling us. And something that starts off as like a bit of a whisper, whether that's a pain in the knee or the ankle or the shoulder or whatever, you know, if you catch it at that stage, it might never progress into something then that is screaming at you saying, you need to do something about this.
Yeah, I totally agree about that kind of, we only end up doing something when our body's shouting at us. So it's too late. You need to start listening a bit earlier on.
Absolutely. And that's what I definitely say about the bone health elements as well. Please don't think that, you know, you're too young to worry about your bones, because, you know, the degeneration that can start in those mid-30s, you know, if we don't do anything to reverse that, or, you know, to make sure that we slow it down or whatever it may be, that, you know, it's never too late, but you might get to a stage where you've had, you know, a couple of fractures before you even realize. And you know, I think it's something like, I think the statistics around, you know, being diagnosed with osteoporosis, you know, sometimes I think it's around 3 fractures a woman will have before she gets the diagnosis. Now, I think there's a lot more awareness, and obviously people are having scans, and you know, the osteopenia, the precursor to osteoporosis, doesn't actually mean you'll get osteoporosis if you have osteopenia, but those type of things, I think it's really important that we sort of do something about it now. Worldwide, 1 in 3 women over 50 will experience an osteoporotic fracture, as will 1 in 5 men. So it's not just a women thing.
That could just be a little trip that turns into...
And sometimes we can get micro fractures without knowing. And then by the time something else happens and that's discovered, you could have microfractures. And I don't want to, like, this is not to scare anybody, but this is just to say we need to educate ourselves. It's the same with perimenopause and menopause. like, it's frustrating that, you know, this information isn't out there. I would say I was in my 40s before I knew all about this, because nobody had ever spoken to me about it before.
You think you're going to have to wait for a hot flash or a night sweat to go and do something about it, because you think that it's so far down the line. And people also don't want to think about it because it probably makes them start to feel old.
Exactly.
And that is not true. My theory is the sooner you can do something about it, the better you're going to feel. And that perimenopause can start 10 years before.
Absolutely.
So all those little niggling things that you might have been noticing over a few years. There's a good chance to.
So just to be clear, the average age for menopause is 51, and so you can start to feel symptoms and effects of perimenopause up to 10 years prior to that. So it's perfectly normal for someone in their late 30s, early 40s to be starting to feel the effects of perimenopause. So if you're starting to notice different symptoms, definitely listen up and start taking action. And I think the first thing you can do is start looking at strength training, looking at your nutrition, looking at supplementing your body with what you might need, what you might be deficient in, and that's going to make a world of difference.
Absolutely. And I'd say read up on it as well and question things, you know. I mean, question things. So if you go to your doctor and they say, well, it's just part of aging, get on with it type thing, then you know, we need to be empowered to question that, and you know, to have the confidence to say, well, actually, I don't feel good in my body. I'm not willing just to put up with this.
And if you're not getting I suppose, the results you wanted from your doctor, you can always change to a different doctor just because you've had the same family doctor for years. Like, who cares? Go to someone else. Go to even a women's health specialist or a menopause clinic. We know Dr. Quiva Hartley has a great menopause clinic, you know, and they talk to women there day in, day out, and they're actually heard as well, you know. There's a lot of people that feel like they're not heard. So
absolutely.
Go to a specialist if you need it. Yeah,
for sure. So if I wanted to start Pilates, what would I be looking at? How much time would I be dedicating to that during the week and during the month?
I mean, if you could, 2 classes a week would be fantastic. But I always give my clients a bit of home practice to do as well. And it might just be one exercise, but that's how you see those strength gains in your body. So I would say if you've never done it before, find somebody local to you that you can maybe have a one-to-one session with first to give you a little bit of confidence going into the class, whether that's a mat class or a reformer class. But also, if you have any of those medical conditions or health concerns, you know, there might be some exercises that wouldn't be suitable in your body. We'd give you something else to do instead, you know. So it's just finding out about those. So I would say find somebody that you can build a relationship with then. Go to a class, have fun, enjoy it. You know,
you actually meet nice new friends
make
as well
nice
that
new
you
friends,
don't even think.
And everybody comes out of the class going, oh my God, I feel about 3 inches taller. Like I feel like my body's been stretched. And sometimes you only notice how tight you are when you start doing something like this, because we're just used to how we feel on a daily basis.
We carry it all. Like,
I'm sure there's some women that come out of it and they probably just start to cry after and they go, oh, the relief.
Absolutely. I've had some great feedback from clients on how, because it's really about functional living as well. Like, this is not just an exercise class that you then don't do anything till you come to the next class. I mean, this really helps, like if you're gardening or if you're shopping, pushing the trolley around. It's a lot of core work, pushing a heavy trolley around. So some clients have said to me things like, I had a lady who is a keen cyclist, and she said she never felt confident enough turning around to look behind her because she always felt too unstable on the bike. And she said she just did it one day and then suddenly realised, that was grand, that felt great. And then somebody else who couldn't blow up a balloon before and now can blow, like simple things like that. But that's the benefits, because, you know, they're the things we focus on. And then I have other clients telling me, you know, I can't stand in a queue in Tesco's now without thinking about, oh, am I rolling out on my feet? Am I nice and centered? You know, am I standing, rolling my shoulders forward? Or, you know, so little postural changes.
Be more aware. God, I'm aware of myself now.
Sit up.
Yeah, taking those little movement breaks in the day where you have been, you know, working at your laptop with those little dinosaur arms and everything, you know, little things to kind of open
That's
up
me
your
all
chest.
day long. And on the phone, you know, TikTok.
And I suppose as well with the back of the neck, you know, leaning over.
That forward head posture is definitely, I see it in my kids and it drives me crazy because they're looking down at their phone or wherever it may be, and the head is heavy. And the more forward the head comes, the more downward pressure it's placing on your spine. It's like adding an extra bowling ball on top of your head. And then that obviously contributes to back pain and things like that. But that's where you can start then to get the rounded shoulders, and you may get that little lump at the base of the neck. And, it can impact your breath, because the front of your chest can get a little tighter, become more closed in. Your ribs can't move. Everything is so interrelated.
Tell us this. Can you improve breast lift through Pilates? Can you bring them back up?
I definitely cannot guarantee that.
I'm sure there's something you could do.
However, your posture will be fantastic. So you'll be standing nice and tall, so they'll get a natural lift.
Okay.
Make sure your bra fits as well. I suppose that would help too. Go get measured.
Very good. Yeah. Brilliant.
So I suppose the last thing is key tips. What key tips would yours be? 3 key tips for I suppose Pilates or better health, or
is it 5 or 3? I can't remember. 3.
Correct. So I suppose my first one is get moving. Something to increase your heart rate, and then something that is resistance-based strength for your bone health. I'd love it to be Pilates, but find something that you enjoy, that you will do consistently. So whatever that is for you, put your time in your diary, wherever it may be. Put yourself at the top of your to-do list.
Yes.
Really
mark it in
focus.
As a meeting.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. You wouldn't cancel a meeting with somebody else. So why would you with yourself? Yes. And I know it's easier said than done. Trust me. I'm not. I don't always practice
you're going
what
for
I
a
preach.
facial. You wouldn't cancel that.
Exactly. But find something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's never too late. So if you're listening and you're in your 70s, it's never too late. I am teaching clients older than that, and you can see improvements in people's function within their flexibility, their strength, and it gives you so much more confidence. Little things can make a huge difference. If you can't get up off the floor, when you're playing with your grandkids or whatever, maybe you never get down on the floor and play with them, but you start strengthening and working through those joints and stuff, then maybe that'll become a possibility. And those type of things can be life-changing. Book a one-to-one, particularly if you have any... I think
that's a really good idea.
Yeah, if you have any health concerns or anything like that. And then I suppose the third one would be, let's start educating ourselves. Let's find the good websites, find the good books.
What's your website actually now? Where can they go?
RachelHollywoodPilates.ie, or I'm on Instagram at RachelHollywoodPilates. So educate yourself and find out more, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And if you think something could be a symptom, it may well could be. So, read up about it, or even start making a little list of things that you might feel are different in your body. For me, the first thing I noticed was my eyes watering, and I just put that down to, I don't know what I put it down to, but I was just like, why are my eyes watering all the time?
Or something. Yeah.
And actually, you mentioned before about, that kind of lack of antihistamine from the loss of estrogen. And I never really suffered from allergies, but, every now and again, the nose would start running. And when you start writing them down and you start looking at them, it's like, oh, wow, that's interesting.
You can only join the dots by looking backwards.
Exactly. Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better.
Yes,
so
exactly.
That is a really important one.
That's a nice one to live by. Thank you so much. This has been so informative, and I think it takes the fear away from people about thinking about joining a class or doing something like that. I think booking a one-to-one would be a really good idea.
Absolutely.
And once
especially because we've been also stuck in the house as well for the last 2.5 years. Get out and meet some new people and have a one-to-one, get a good relationship going there.
You'll feel so much better.
Absolutely. It's never too late. Just go and find your closest Pilates studio, or come onto my website and have a look. And, I can maybe point you in the right direction if you're not Dublin based or whatever, but just start moving, because it's really important. It's how we, I suppose, it's our future health. We want to stay strong. We're all living longer, and, we need to look after our bodies. And, let's do a little bit of work to kind of lay the foundations and to stay strong for, as we get older.
I must say your skin is absolutely glowing.
Thank
you.
I
do know that you're on Key Collagen, because we saw another subscription come through for that as well. So
I love it.
Do you like it?
Oh my goodness, the taste of it. I see some ladies put it in liquid, and I'm thinking, no, I'd take the box if I could.
Yes.
Just amazing.
I've actually started putting them in. I put the box in the fridge, and they're nice, refreshing now in the morning. Like
that's a good idea.
Cold liquid sachet.
I was thinking the other day, if Johnny Depp took it, he'd have a mega pint of Greek collagen.
It's really good.
Only one a day, though.
It's really good. And the supplements as well, fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's at the moment, touch wood, my symptoms are very, very mild, especially compared to some of, my friends and stuff as well.
How long are you on it now?
You're on key perimenopause and you're also on key collagen. But yeah, you're on it a few months
I am a few months now. I'd say I'll be coming close to 6 months, 5 or 6 months at this stage.
Yeah.
I feel great.
That's brilliant. And, you look fantastic.
Thanks. And so like just look after yourself and move. Like I move every day. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. It's 2 exercises because I'm too busy, or maybe on a Sunday. At the moment, Sunday is my day where I try to do very little and, just hang out with the kids or whatever. And I might just wake up and I might do 2 or 3 roll downs in the morning and 2 or 3 roll downs in the evening and I walk the dog. And that might be it. But that's enough because, with certain exercises, you can start moving. It's really important that we move the spine, all directions, forward, backwards, side to side rotation. Really important because that's what keeps our back really healthy and strong. And
God, we could talk to you all week long. Fascinating. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You can find out more about Rachel at rachelhollywoodpilates.ie and on Instagram as well. Thanks so much for coming in. Thanks. Thank you so much for joining us on the Key for Her podcast. We'd be so grateful if you could hit subscribe, rate, and share this podcast with your friends.
For tips, tricks, and hacks on all things perimenopause, menopause, periods, menstrual cycles, and skin health, follow us at Key for Her on TikTok and Instagram.
Check out our website, keyforher.com, for more information.